This isn't just a conflict, it's a playbook, an ancient, dangerous one, and it's now wide open on the world stage. It all starts with an image you were probably told was impossible, a global financial hub, literally on fire.
And just like that, the chaos spreads, like a virus. You hear the sirens screaming, but honestly, it's already too late.
And then the unthinkable happens. A direct strike on a key U.S. ally. You're looking at smoke rising from the American embassy. This isn't control. This is pure chaos.
So for every American citizen now trapped in the middle of this, what's the message from the U.S. State Department? It's not, "We're coming for you." No, it's this order. Depart now via commercial means. In other words, you're on your own.
Okay, so how on earth did we get here? Well, the official answer is somehow even more terrifying than the missiles themselves. So let's be crystal clear. The United States invaded Iran, and this wasn't retaliation for anything. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he makes one thing absolutely clear. America threw the first punch. He uses this word preemptive. It's a very carefully chosen word, right? Designed to sanitize an invasion.
But that one little word, preemptive, it just raises the most important question of all. If Iran hadn't attacked, why in the world is the U.S. invading?
All right, so here's the official logic, straight from Marco Rubio. Get this. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu was about to strike Iran. Then Iran might have struck America in response. So, to prevent a war that might have happened, America started a real one. Think about that. This is a war built on a fear of a fear. And while the world is watching these fires spread, what does Donald Trump have to say? He tells Kelly Myers on News Nation, speaking about the violence he just authorized, that's part of war. Just like that. A really chilling dismissal of the chaos he himself unleashed. You know, to really understand how something like this happens, you can't just read the news headlines. You have to get inside the mind of the person in charge. And for that, well, there's a very old, very specific playbook.
Niccolo Machiavelli wrote it, 500 years ago? It was a guide for princes on how to get and keep power. And he basically posed the exact same question we're facing right now. What happens when a strike that's meant to create fear just creates chaos instead?
So, let's be really clear about what preemptive war actually is. It's not defense. It's not about stopping an attack that's already happening. No, it's about stopping a future attack that might happen. It's a war fought for image, for perception, not for actual defense.
And this is where it gets interesting. Machiavelli, he laid out these three classic traps for any ruler. Trap number one, the fear of looking weak. Number two, that impulse to just act before you actually think it through. And number three, and this is the fatal one, believing that aggression is the same thing as control. It's a pattern as old as time, and you can see it happening step by step right now. Okay, so now just watch. Watch as this ancient playbook unfolds in real time. Because once a leader steps into this kind of trap, any sense of control is just an illusion. The whole thing has already started to unravel. First, just look at the objective. The whole thing started with a clear goal: stop uranium enrichment. Simple enough. But then it quickly morphed into regime change. And now you have Senator J.D. Vance saying, and I quote, "We don't really care who runs the country. The goalposts haven't just moved, they've completely disappeared." You know, Machiavelli called this the very first sign of a lost war. Now, let's look behind that curtain of strength. The image they're projecting is one of overwhelming force, right? But the reality is a completely gutted State Department. Its budget has been slashed almost in half. Major General Randy Manners says his own staff are basically in survival mode. A prince can't project power out in the world when his own house is falling apart. And look, the consequences here aren't some abstract idea. They are immediate, and they are brutal. This so-called preemptive strike didn't prevent an attack on Americans. It actually guaranteed one. The cost is already being paid right now in American lives. And while all this is happening, where is the prince's focus? As the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh is getting hit, Donald Trump is on social media. And what's his message to the world? He calls himself the GOAT. This isn't just a distraction. It's a really terrifying signal of where his priorities actually are. You know, Machiavelli warned about this exact moment. The moment when a war stops being about national security and, instead, it becomes all about partisan validation. When you have figures like Dana Perino and Mike Johnson framing all this chaos as some kind of political win,
Well, winning the actual war doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is winning the news cycle. And that is when reason just dies.
So what happens next? Well, once the trap is sprung, the playbook only shows 3 possible ways out. And here's the spoiler. None of them lead to peace.
Okay, path 1. A rapid, overwhelming victory. That seems pretty unlikely now that the retaliation has already started, right? Path 2. A long, grinding war of attrition that just bleeds money and lives. Or path 3, and this is the final darkest possibility, a full-blown regional conflagration. A fire that just consumes everyone and everything. See, the entire strategy is hanging on one of Machiavelli's core ideas, that a prince has to use fear to get obedience. To be feared is to be in control. That's the theory, anyway.
But here's the final, deadly paradox in the whole thing. A ruler who acts out of a deep fear of looking weak, he eventually becomes consumed by that very same fear. The chaos he unleashes to try and control others abroad, that is the very thing that will destabilize his own rule right here at home.
So think about it. The objectives are gone, the rhetoric is just escalating, the chaos is spreading. The question isn't what will happen anymore. The real question is, which of these dark paths are we already on, and just how far down that road have we already gone?